Good afternoon and welcome back to the Student Hub Live. Well, this is the last session of our Education, Childhood, Youth and Sport Curriculum Showcase, and we have a fantastic session to end today's programme with. We're going to talk about children's conceptions of play and learning. And I'm joined by Sarah Jane and Teresa, who are both experts on this very topic. So we're going to spend some time talking about play, and it's something that's run throughout today as a key theme. But before I introduce you two, Kiran, have you got your sound back on?
I do, and hopefully you can see my unicorn.
And is that unicorn the cause of your sound failure, Kiran? Have you been playing instead of focusing on your work?
I wish I could say that, but no, this is my daughter's unicorn, not mine, sorry. And her name is Princess Sparkles, and yes, she has been distracting me.
I know Princess Sparkles as well. That's very, very bad. Okay. Well, Teresa and Sarah, maybe I can ask you about what you used to do when you were children. How did you sort of think about play? Teresa?
Well, I don't know that I thought about it really. I just took part in it. My dad made us a little doll's house when I was quite little, and we just absolutely loved it. We used to kind of get out the little figurines. We used to feed them dolly mixtures and cut up the dolly mixtures into tiny little specks of food, and then leave it all around. Not very good for the mice, I imagine, but it was great fun. And when we were a bit older, a group of us used to play gymkhana, as it were. I mean, we wanted to own horses, but we didn't. So we wanted to have a pony, but we didn't. So we pretended we did have a pony and went around whacking our thighs as if we were riding a horse and jumping over bits of stone and rock and sticks and so on. So playing imaginatively, I guess, was part of it.
Oh, I wonder Kieran's going to try that out with the unicorn. I think that could be particularly hazardous. We need your sound, Kiran. Don't do it. Sarah, what about you? What did you play when you were little?
I suppose, like lots of children, I liked a little bit of everything. But I vividly remember playing in the garden and enjoying being outside, playing with a ball against the wall, hopscotch, skipping. There was a lot of skipping. And then in the house, we played a lot of board games and word games. We made up stories together, things like that, really.
Oh, I used to do so many of these things. It brings to mind my memories of playing elastics. We used to spend hours with this elastic band and these various games. So different now what children get up to. Kiran, what are people saying in the chat about games that they've played? And how's your unicorn? Is it getting much love, Miss Princess Sparkles?
Well, first of all, there's not a huge amount of chat at the minute. I think it's just because we're just commencing. What I can tell you is that I do work as a staff tutor at the Open University, and Princess Sparkles has been telling me that in her world, staff tutors are a fantasy item. So apparently so are academics. But apart from that, nothing at the minute. But I'm sure next little while we're going to get some comments, and I'll let you know.
Brilliant. Fantasy items indeed. Well, very useful staff tutors are as well, especially for getting students lined up for module start. Then we'll appreciate you. So, Teresa and Sarah, you've been doing some research, haven't you? And it's cross-cultural research, which I think is so important because just thinking about some of the things that we did as children, I'm very mindful how contextually bound they are, both in time and geographically. So tell us about your research then, and what did you do, Teresa?
Well, the research kind of started several years back when a group of us were engaged in some work at the University of Cambridge. We were on an advisory board. Our work on the advisory board had kind of closed, and we ended up in a coffee shop rather late at night, a bunch of professors, in fact, from right around the world, discussing our shared passion for play and learning. And we realised then that there were a lot of studies where researchers understand adults' perspectives of play, parents' perspectives of play, teenagers' perspectives of playing when they were little, but not the children. So we didn't hear the voices of children and their views of play and understandings of play in the research that we'd read. So we decided to go to the Lego Foundation and ask Lego if they'd be interested in funding some research that listened to the children, that would give voice to the children's views of play. And perhaps unsurprisingly, they did. They supported us. And as a group of academics right from across the world, I think we've got a picture of the group somewhere here to share. We got colleagues from Denmark. We have colleagues, here we are, great, the team, the PAL scholars, colleagues from Denmark, from Argentina, from the US, and from Hong Kong, and of course us crew from England. And together we developed a project that tried to understand children's conceptions of play. We involved 600 participants, 200 mothers from across the world, and 400 young people to try and understand what their views on play were. It's been an absolutely fascinating journey, and that's partly what we've come here to share with you, a little bit of that. I think Sarah's going to pick up on some of the methodology in that regard.
Sarah?
Yes, that's right. I think, have we got a poll that we were going to do at this point to ask everyone at home what they
we
thought?
certainly do. So people have been filling in our poll, which is, are these types of
Fantastic.
activities?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Choose one that
Okay,
you remember playing most as a child. So here you
That's
go,
right.
Sarah.
Oh, right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, I don't know if there are any more responses going to come in, and so we'll wait a moment, but I'll tell you a little bit about the cards. And I think also we had a slide with some cards and some images on.
So yes, we do. We've
Coming
got
next.
an activity about which
There's
is
our
most
logo.
playful.
Oh, yes.
So this is the Pals logo, and we're now going to show some cards, which is on a pink side, and they're 5
Oh, yes.
cards.
Yeah,
And we've got a
lovely.
widget for people to fill in at home, which will make sense when you've seen these. So we've got a green widget, which is which activity is the most playful one for you? And there are a choice of those ones on there, which all relate to the
Yes.
cards that you can now see on the screen. Sarah?
Yes. So the images on the screen that you can see, they're actually a selection of the cards that we designed to support a card sorting activity, which was an important part of the methodology. We wanted it to be enjoyable and playful for the children. And so we designed this set of cards. There were 36. Those ones are quite playful, as you can see, but we also had some cards that were more everyday activities, such as combing your hair and walking up the stairs and setting the table, those types of things. We piloted the cards in all of the different countries so that the children were not only familiar with the types of activities, but they were activities they were also likely to engage in. In terms of age groups, we had children who were 5 years old and 7 years old. And we thought that provided a sort of glimpse into 2 different educational stages, children that had, or just on the cusp of starting their formal education, and children who were just into the formal education a couple of years in, bearing in mind that we were dealing with different educational contexts as well. In terms of the engagement itself, we had the card sorting activity, of which those cards were part. We asked the children to sort the cards literally, and here's a couple more, into 2 baskets. And Teresa's, we've got
Modelling
baskets, modelling our baskets, literally showing, asking the children to have a look at the card and say, is that play or is it not play? Is it learning or is it not learning? And then they had to put the cards into the correct basket, not the correct basket, into the basket of their choice. And then we asked them some questions, and then we invited them to teach a puppet to play and to learn, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later.
Would you like to know, Sarah,
sort of,
what our viewers found most playful from the poll? Because they've been
yes,
voting on that one.
Yeah, let's.
So which activity did people at home found most playful? So let's see what they had to say. Oh, it's pretty split here. So video games, bubbles, and dressing up most playful. Hula hoop somewhat playful. And lining up numbers not very playful at all. There's probably no
not
maths
very
people
playful
here
at all. I mean, that's really interesting because the dressing up, in actual fact, and it was the dressing up and the bubbles. We haven't got time to talk about the mothers' findings today, but we also, some of our participants were mothers, and in the mothers' responses, they highlighted the bubbles and the dressing up, but not the video games as so playful, actually. So that's very interesting.
Yes, there were kind of...
Sorry, Teresa, go.
I was going to say there were differences across countries, really, and across ages, but there were similarities. And I think that was where we found it most interesting. We began to see that young children's conceptions of play related to playing with someone, playing with something, and then sometimes, but not always, playing with a game that had rules of some kind. But our young people, out of that selection of 5 and some others, selected as the most playful, again, bubbles, and again, dressing up. But they also identified hula hoop, which is interesting because none of our participants today have identified hula hoop, or 10% only. So those were the kinds that the young people saw as the most playful.
Yeah, we found it quite interesting actually with the technology. Oh, sorry, Karen.
No,
I think
go
I've
for
jumped
it.
in.
Go, Sarah, go.
Even with all the technology that we have today, actually it was the imaginative outside and more traditional games really that the children saw as most playful. So that was very interesting. Whether that would be the same now after this period of lockdown, I'm not sure.
It would be good to hear some of the voices. Could we hear some of the voices? We had some voices. Are they going to be available? That'd be lovely to hear the kids.
Yeah,
I think we've got some audio clips of some children. So let's take a look and see what they had to say.
Okay.
I like swinging on the swing. I like going really high. I always know that blowing bubbles is quite fun because afterwards you can watch them go up into the sky and pop. So you can dress up as anything in your imagination, and you can pretend you're a monster or a bear or a superhero. It makes you feel really happy, really.
Oh, those are lovely, and lovely to actually hear the children. I mean, you mentioned that in addition, you also used puppets in those interviews. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you did that?
Yes. Well, what we did is part of the methodology, as I explained, was a card sorting activity. And that led to a huge amount of very rich quantitative data. But we also wanted some qualitative data and wanted to give the children a chance to explore play and explore learning for themselves. And so part of the participant engagement was to bring in our puppets. Teresa, have you got yours?
Yep, got them both.
We've got 2. We each had 2, and these puppets, Zim and Rico, were puppets that went all over the world. All of the children in the engagement, all of the 400 children saw these 2 puppets, whether they were in Denmark or in Hong Kong or in every single of the countries, and they loved them. And what they were invited to do was to teach the puppet to play and to learn. And so we had some really long responses where they really got into playing the teacher and speaking to the puppets about that. So it was brilliant, such good fun. I mean, everyone had a great time as well. It was good fun as a researcher as well. The children enjoyed it.
I bet. And one of the things I love is all the interesting methods you've used, how appropriate they are for the children. You must have had brilliant fun. So, I mean, you were exploring a lot of stuff about play there, but you mentioned also that you were also focusing on learning. So how did you explore learning?
Well, in a not dissimilar way, really. We were exploring through the puppets and through the card icons what the children saw as play, what they saw as learning, and what were the overlaps. And that was where it's really very interesting, because although there were similarities in the way children saw play, where the cultural differences appear to have kicked in is with relation to learning. So, for example, the Argentinian and the Danish children tended to select the most cards that they saw as both play and learning, and potentially, therefore, could see there was a kind of overlap that you could play and learn at the same time. Whereas the children in Argentina, the children in the US and Hong Kong tended to select many fewer cards that were seen to be both play and learning. So potentially we think we could argue that those young people were seeing there was a separation between play and learning. You can't play and learn at the same time. You're either playing, enjoying yourself perhaps, or you're learning and you're doing those numbers perhaps that were not rated highly earlier on. So that was really interesting to us, and it's something that we're still trying to unpick and understand. What are the cultural practices, what are the home parental expectations and so on that might bring 5-year-olds only to have that kind of view of play and learning.
So we were going to ask people at home what they thought were children most likely to pick as play and learning from a choice of 5 different cards. So let's see the cards, and then let's see what people had to say about what they were most likely to pick. So these are the 5 cards. And let's see what people had to say from these particular ones. So coming up here is video games. So the combination of play and learning, perhaps representing how we're feeling at the time. Any responses to that poll?
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating for me. And it will be for Teresa, I know as well. From the children's perspective, could I be able to see the poll at the same time while I'm talking? That's lovely.
Yes.
From the children's perspectives, there were 3 of these cards were most likely to pick only as play, actually, and they were the bubbles, dressing up, and video games. So the children's perspectives, in comparison already to the everybody at home, the adults' perspectives at home, is already quite different. Lining up numbers also is really interesting. That everybody at home didn't think that was play and learning, because that was one of the cards that the children did pick as play and learning, that had that overlap that Teresa was talking about. And we saw that as probably because there are educational games that you can see that probably go on to support early numeracy. You can sort of see that type of activity in preschools and early years and young classrooms. Now, the one that's most fascinating, and it's actually fascinating in relation to the poll as well, is the hula-hoop. And the hula-hoop was also very likely to be picked as play and learning by the children. And we wondered why that was. I mean, why the hula-hoop? Why was that? And we think it picks up a couple of things. Firstly, the importance that children assign to play, but also that these quite young children recognise that there are certain skills that are involved in playing that they need to master or need to accomplish in order to take part. And hula hoop probably exemplifies that for 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds, in that you have to move in a particular way in order to keep the hoop spinning. So we think that there they saw that as playful, but actually as a learning activity as well. So very, very interesting. I mean, we haven't been able to talk about all of the data, obviously, but those ideas are supported elsewhere in the data also.
Teresa, it sounds like an absolutely fascinating study. What are you doing now with it all then? Where are you at?
Well, where we're at is trying to mine our understandings of what the children have told us. We're trying to respect and listen to those voices, and then we're trying to get them out there, out in publications. We've been working on some serious peer-reviewed publications, but we've also been doing some blogs. In the pandemic, we've been working on 3 blogs, and I think those will be really accessible for everybody to read. They were written for parents and educators, because as educators, we need to listen to the voices of children, and then we need to design our curricula in response to those voices, not just assume we know what they understand by play and learning, and then, impose our understandings upon them. So that's where we're heading now. Publications, more analysis and publications.
Brilliant. And we've got some blogs there that we can share. Parents Know Best, How You Can Play and Learn at the Same Time, and also Learning Through Play, More Laughter Than Smiles. And we'll put the links to that in the chat. So thank you both so much for an absolutely fantastic session.
Thank you.
Kiran, how are you doing? And what have you learned? Are you playing or learning?
I've been very careful how to answer that question. I say I'm learning quite a bit, and so the students. Just so our academics know, a lot of students are commenting here about the methodology of using the puppets to gather information, and thought that was really a really interesting idea on how it could disarm children. So you can gather data, and the other thing as well is going back to your very first question, which I didn't have information on. Karen, there's a number of different activities our students did, but what was really interesting when you look at the answers is that it depended if our students grew up in a rural or city area. So if they're a rural area, it seemed to be more inclined that they'd be outdoors, whereas in a city area, they had the option of doing like board games and things like that on a rainy day. Otherwise, they play outside. So I'm not saying they're mutually exclusive, but there tends to be a little bit of a trend.
That's interesting.
Very
Thank you.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Yes.
Great.
Brilliant.
Well, Zico's coming to get you with that princess unicorn.
I'm
like
really
this
thinking my
creature, it's
daughter's not getting this back. You know what I mean? So
Swap it
I
for
say
a
I
it
song.
can't seem to
first, really
find the
mine.
space where it's got to stay in.
I think pink suits me. That's just me.
Oh, it's all getting a bit silly now. Right, we've got to end
Yeah.
the programme. Well, that is all we have time for actually today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a really, really fantastic event. Thank you to the school as well, and all of the enthusiasm our wonderful colleagues have put into today preparing this. We all love talking to Open University students. We love hearing your voices also. So do let us know what you think. If you haven't already subscribed to our little mailing list, do so, and keep an eye out, because we're going to be doing an induction event from the school also to gear you up for module start come September time. And we have lots of exciting workshops also in the build up to the new academic year that you might like to take part in, things like essay planning and writing, critical thinking. So some really lovely key skills that you might want to revisit in an hour's online session. So check the Student Hub Live website out. Let us know any feedback you've had, either positive or negative. Thank you so much for chatting and sharing your contributions today. Unfortunately, we do need to go now, but we hope to see you at another Student Hub Live event very, very soon. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.